What's the latest from Gaza, you ask? Well, pull up a chair and lend an ear, for the chronicle we're about to unfurl is one of diplomacy, conflict, and hope. Back in December of 2023, Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas, embarked on a journey to Cairo. The objective? To discuss the ongoing conflict in Gaza, with the hope of securing a ceasefire and facilitating a hostage exchange. The stakes were high and the urgency palpable, as the conflict had already resulted in a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, leaving tens of thousands displaced and in dire need of basic supplies. Despite the international efforts to mediate, the negotiations hit a stumbling block. Hamas insisted on the release of Palestinian prisoners in exchange for hostages, a demand that widened the chasm between the negotiating parties. Meanwhile, the Israeli offensive continued unabated, with a firm resolve to dismantle Hamas's capabilities and free all captives. The fallout of this conflict was starkly evident in the rising death toll as civilian and combatant casualties mounted. The UN Security Council, witnessing the grim circumstances, began working on a resolution to halt the fighting and increase humanitarian aid deliveries to Gaza, thus adding pressure on the US to support the measure. But the conflict showed no signs of abating. Later in December, a devastating Israeli airstrike in central Gaza claimed the lives of at least 68 individuals, among whom were women and children. This added to the already significant devastation in Gaza, with over 20,400 Palestinians killed and most of the population displaced. The international community wasn't silent on these developments. Pressure mounted on Israel regarding the civilian death toll, while efforts towards negotiations and humanitarian aid delivery continued. Allegations of mistreatment of Palestinian detainees by Israeli forces further fueled the tension, making the situation even more volatile. As we stand today, the situation in Gaza remains a powder keg ready to explode. The calls for a humanitarian ceasefire grow louder, with concerns of a wider regional conflict looming large. The negotiations are ongoing, and the potential outcomes are being closely watched by the world. In summary, the road to peace in Gaza is proving to be a steep climb. The stakes have never been higher, and the need for a resolution has never been more urgent. The world watches and waits, hoping for a peaceful resolution that will bring an end to the suffering and pave the way for a brighter future in Gaza. Only time will tell how these negotiations will shape the course of history.